Wow, the light is also not working with me. Where's my dreamy mood? The lighting is going to be all over the place, but we work with what we've got. So, World of Warcraft lore. We love it, right? Right? When we're in game, we know exactly what's happening at any given point. There are definitely no retcons, definitely no confusion, and it's all a very coherent and consistent story. Having said that, there are some intriguing elements to World of Warcraft's lore, and probably why I've been playing it on and off, mind you, and very inconsistently for the last... I actually don't even know. 10 years? 12 years? I've been playing it for a very long time. And with the recent BlizzCon that happened last month, right? I think it was last month, talking about the future of the game and the next 3 expansions, which is unheard of, and where they're planning on going with the lore, and Chris Metzen returning, which is super exciting, and we'll see what he does to bring everything together. There are a few things that have intrigued me, and I'm making this video specifically not only to bring you all some lore, but also to straighten it out in my own mind and have this for visual reference. In this video specifically, I'm going to be talking about Tyr. Now, who is Tyr exactly? He's actually a pretty important character in the overarching lore of the world of Azeroth as a whole. He's actually been gone from the world for a very long time, I want to say tens of thousands of years. In any case, in the most recent game patch, so that's 10.2, he came back. And due to his nature and his abilities, I feel like that's a pretty big deal for the lore going forward. So let's take a deeper look into the return of Tyr, the Keeper, and what that means for World of Warcraft. Let's get into it. So for anyone who doesn't play World of Warcraft, if you are brand new to the game, new to the lore, if you're just curious, let's start with the very first question. Who even is Tyr? Tyr is a keeper, and those are basically the protectors and the shapers of the world. And there are 9 of them, and the names I can't remember off the top of my head. I'll mention them somewhere down here probably. And they were created by the Pantheon of Titans. That begs another question though, who are the Pantheon? Maybe that's a whole other video for another day, and it also seems like it's going to be very relevant in the coming years of the game. But basically, they are the Titans who shaped and ordered worlds across the universe, while protecting the universe at the same time, and searching for other Titans who were like them. But the Keepers were created by the Titans basically to fight their wars for them, which is kind of a cowardly move on the one hand, but then on the other hand, the Titans are massive, and the whole reason why they created the Keepers and the Titan Forged is because they didn't want to destroy the soul of the world that they were trying to save. I mean, I guess they could smash their fist and just explode an entire planet, and then Azeroth would be gone completely. So they created the Keepers to fight the war against the Old Gods, otherwise known as the Black Empire. Basically, the Old Gods and all of the terrors of the Black Empire arrived on Azeroth first and kind of took over the land, and then the Titans arrived afterwards, saw the state of things, and they were like, no, we have to save this world. So that's why they created the Keepers, to fight the horrible stuff that was coming out of the void. And this was eons ago, so many thousands of years before the game and history as we know it kind of in the present day. They had their purpose, so the Keepers spent weeks fighting elementals summoned by the Old Gods, elementals that we know and that are already in the game, so Ragnaros the Firelord, Alakir the Windlord, Therazane of the Earth, and Neptulon of the Waters. Thing is, elementals can't be defeated forever and they can be reformed. So the Keeper Ra, who is similar to Tyr, they were created at the same time. He created the elemental plane and bound them there, so kind of like an elemental prison, so they wouldn't cause any more trouble. Once that was done, so much for not harming the world, they turned their attention to the Old Gods themselves, and actually ended up harming Azeroth anyway. This happened when they ripped out Yeshaj. I hope I'm saying that right. The old gods are very difficult to pronounce. But Yeshaj was ripped out of Azeroth from where it had burrowed really deep underground and made a giant gap, and the world energy started spilling out. And where Yeshaj's remains dropped back to Earth after being pulled out, it became the land of Pandaria. And that's probably also a whole other video, the lore of Pandaria and how the corruption started there. So all was well. The old gods had been removed, the elementals had been removed, and the Titan Forged and the Keepers were then charged with building life in Azeroth, planting new things, making things thrive, creating, building, and Azeroth did thrive. It became a beautiful, lush land. So everything was good, right? Nah, we can't have good things for too long on Azeroth. It doesn't work that way. Tyr actually found out that his fellow keeper, Loken, had become corrupted. And it was around this time that Tyr formed a really deep bond with the dragon aspects, and they came to him and they offered their help to help him defeat Loken. The fight against Loken's armies went on for a really long time, and in the end Tyr realised that if he wanted to fight and defeat Loken, he likely wouldn't come back. As a result, he gifted the dragon aspects a silver scale as a token of friendship, yes, but there was a deeper purpose which we'll come back to that he didn't reveal to them straight away. Then he left to seek Loken in Ulduar, which is in the Storm Peaks of Northrend. You know it well if you've ever quested there. His allies went ahead and stole the Discs of Norgannon from Loken in the meantime. The Discs of Norgannon basically are like a black box for the Titans and cover their history and everything they've ever done. And they wanted to use those discs to analyse the data and hopefully uncover Loken's treachery. In the meantime, Tyr was gathering allies for his fight, so most notably, the Vrykul. Specifically, Vrykul afflicted with the curse of flesh, who happen to be the ancestors of humans in the game currently. And this explains his deep bond with humans for all the ages that go past. Loken wasn't very happy about this. He found out about the theft of the Discs of Norgannon, and he sent the Cathraxi after Tyr. Wait, I need to read his name because I can't read it or pronounce it without my screen. Zakaj the Corruptor, and Kithix as well. At that point, Tyr had escaped to a beautiful, peaceful glade, which was no longer peaceful after Loken's minions found him. And he fought them for 6 days and 6 nights to keep them away from his allies. It was at that point that Tyr realised he would need to sacrifice his life if he really wanted to save the world and his allies. So he did. He basically exploded and unleashed all his energy, which killed both Zakaj, I had to look again, and Kithix, and it also killed him at the same time. This area, where he fought Loken's minions and exploded, was known by his allies as Tyr's Fall, which in time was translated in the Vrykul language to what we now know as the zone of Tirisfal. His tomb was built on the spot where he fell along with Zakaj, and the Vrykul vowed to protect it for centuries as they evolved into humans along the way. So that's kind of the gist up to where we are in World of Warcraft now. A lot has happened since, and if you've played the most recent patch update, you'll know that Tyr has a lot to catch up on, and maybe that should also be a separate video, like what lore has happened, a crash course for Tyr when he's woken up and needs to know everything that's happened on Azeroth up until this point. So how exactly did Tyr return to the World of Warcraft, and what might happen from now on? The latest patch actually goes into detail about this story, what led up to his death, and his coming back into the world, and you can play as Tyr in a flashback, which is pretty cool. Tyr actually anticipated his death, and he ended up storing his memories in a disc, and he gave it to his allies, telling them to give the disc to the dragon aspects at the right time, and the truth of the silver scale would be revealed. Long story short, the disc is sent to another timeline by Deos, who is the lord of the infinite dragonflight, because he's terrible. That's a whole, raid that you need to go through. He just yeets the disc off into another timeline, so we can't access it. In the most recent patch, it turns out that Elisand of the Nightborn has the disc in a different timeline, and she's using its power to save her people. Incidentally, the thing that I find really weird about that part of the patch is how easily Elisande gives up the disc. We have to fight her several times while she uses her time magic to wind things back. But then by the third time, she's just like, yeah, I got what I wanted, you can have the disc now. What was the point? Why did you give it up so easily? Strange. I wonder if there's more to that than we know. We do get the disc back, and we bring it back to the dragon aspects, who help to craft a new body for Tyr using schematics that were actually stored inside the silver scale this whole time. The Tyr's guard is reformed, so the humans who have been guarding Tyr's tomb this entire time, but I suppose now their purpose is not to guard him as such, but to follow him, and he also sees them as guides for his growing knowledge of what's happened in the world all this time since he's been dead. So what does this mean for the story exactly? This is where wild speculation can just go full force, because so many things could happen at this point, and I feel like Tyr waking up means something quite big for the game. After completing the most recent patch, you can talk to the Tyr's guard, and one of them mentions that he asked Tyr what's next, what's the next thing ready to go. But Tyr is not willing to do that just yet. He needs to put his mind together, get everything straight, and figure out what to do next without intruding on the world. The guard asks about Northrend, Quel'Thalas, even the Broken Shore, which have all been pointed to as locations, specific and important locations, for the next 3 expansions that were announced at BlizzCon. But Tyr is a world shaper, that's his entire purpose. He doesn't want to intrude on the world, but it really makes me wonder how it's going to change in the next few years as he's alive and walking around and changing things for the better, I hope. He seems like quite a noble guy. The really intriguing thing is, even though Tyr is a creation of the Titans, not even he knows the Titans' entire plan. But then it all comes together. We talk about The Last Titan, which is the title of the 3rd expansion. And it's going to take us to Northrend, and Metzen talked about a grand conspiracy that the Titans have been keeping from us this entire time. What is it? I need to know. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. But that's a quick rundown of everything we know about Tyr so far as we go into this new phase of the game. Let me know what you think down in the comments, give this video a like if you haven't already, and thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you coming by and listening to my little tidbits of lore, and I'll see you in the next video.